Hello friend, it's Mark out in the back 40. In this episode we're going to talk about a few things. Number one, let's do a food plot update. Number two, let's talk about irrigation, because in the last video I was thinking about irrigation and some of you had some great ideas on that. Number three, I guess maybe what are some of our chores we should be doing in August. So here we go. Right now I'm standing in a shooting lane that I just cut down a couple days ago to start forming some habits and helping the deer get used to the what the food plot is going to be like this fall, and also to give me an idea what's going on underneath this sorghum. So here is a lot of tall structure that I planted in the mix this year. And the reason I did that, if you haven't watched the channel before, is I'm trying to get more height in the food plots. I'll call it structure. And I want that so that the deer feel more comfortable, especially if there's a more mature buck hanging around the property. I'm not sure that he would come out if this food plot was wide open. This is only about 3/4 of an acre, but if he came out in here and it was all wide open, he might want to hang more in the thick stuff and do the edges, as opposed to if he's got this structure here where he feels like he's in thick cover, whether he's come from this side or this side, and then he gets to the shooting lane. This thing is only, what, maybe 20 feet wide, and I'm hoping that he'll like the edge, because I've had them do this before. That's why I'm doing this. He'll like this edge, and he'll travel in this edge, which will give me a shot at him from our west blind, which you can see is right back there. So get into the shooting lane. So that's why I'm trying to get more structure out in my food plots, at the expense of maybe having food in here. I mean, there is some food in this stuff that I planted in the spring. There are brassicas in here, like you can see right here. There's a brassica, and there's soybeans in here. There's millet in here. There's all kinds of other stuff down underneath here, but I don't know if I want to fully commit to food everywhere versus cover and concentrated food here to really get them into these shooting lanes so that we can get a good look at them and get them harvested. A couple of our other food plots are maybe a little wider than this one. And so what I actually would want to do is have a thick area down the middle of the food plot and have a shooting lane on one side, and then maybe another shooting lane that would go over here. And then you'd have a thick spot between them that would keep them so they can't see each other. And so what that does is two things. Number one, it has the potential to get more doe groups into the food plot at the same time, because does are nasty and they are very territorial. And I've seen them multiple times, and you probably have too. When one group will come out into the wide open food plot, and another one will want to come in, and the other one goes over and kicks them out. It's really, they're kind of nasty. So then you would only have one group sitting in your food plot when you could have one group here, and they would have no idea that the other group is over in this other shooting lane of yours, because you have this thick stuff between. So that's the first thing it does, is get more does in your plot, which then does what? Exactly, it gets a buck. If a buck comes into that food plot, he's got to hit this spot and somehow find his way around to get to another spot. So hopefully when he's traveling, and you can create a little corridor for him to make him go where you want him to go, but you can get a better look at him and a better shot at him that way. So that's kind of my idea of why I want to try to get more structure in the food plots, so that I can get more does in there, less social pressure on them, and get bucks to move around more. So hopefully I get a better chance at getting a shot at them. So this fall is coming up. I will be planting in these shooting lanes for 100% for sure. I'm going to drill in a rye, oats, crimson clover, brassica mix in here for sure. I haven't decided if I'm going to drill into the tall stuff yet. I might test it just to see, because I want that structure to stay there. So what I don't want to do is drill in and knock everything down and now all my structure is gone. I would rather have the structure and less food than less structure and more food, because I want to try to drive them into the shooting lanes to get their food. So I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that's my philosophy and what I'm trying this year. And I know that I did something like this a couple years ago when I first started no-till, and it worked pretty well. I liked it. Maybe I was just lucky. I don't know, but that's the strategy this year. So once I get this stuff all drilled and make my final decisions, I'll let you guys know. But you've got to make your decisions now. Like, what is your plan and what is your strategy for your food plots this fall? It's time to start ordering seed and planting. So I wish you all the best. So I thought I should start out in our Sahara food plot. If you haven't followed the channel, this is a very challenging food plot here. It's very sandy, very, very sandy. It gets very dry here, which is why we call it the Sahara food plot. It's got two halves to it. This is one half, there's another half over here. Anyways, so let's talk about irrigation. So the last video, a couple videos ago, I was considering irrigation because one of the comments made by Tom was, he follows the channel, he suggested, hey, what if you irrigate your food plots? And I had never really thought too much about it. I know farmers have pivots and they irrigate here in Michigan when it's really dry, but I never really thought about doing it in my food plots. And some of the logistics of doing that, I think, are going to be a little too challenging for what I am interested in doing. Now, you might be a whole different story, but Tom made mention that you could use a egg-sized sprinkler head and maybe put it in the middle here and hard pipe from the middle of a food plot maybe to a well or a pond or a creek and just suck out of that. And then you wouldn't have to move hoses around. But really, it was the comments from all of you guys that made me decide what I did. So moving hoses around and moving sprinklers around, if that's how you have it set up, that looked like too much of a pain in the butt to me. Because if you can imagine right now, like, look at this stuff. It's 3-4 feet tall. And how do you move hoses around in there? So once they're set, you can't move them around anymore. And then the other thing is just having to come out and move them and do the work. For me, it just wasn't something I'm interested in. Another reason I'm going to decide against it, at least at this point, it doesn't mean a couple years from now I don't change my mind, but right now, another comment that somebody made was that their local biologist told them what I think is just great. It was out of 5 years on your food plots, you're going to have one of those years is going to be a drought, like what we had this year. One of those years, you're going to have too much moisture. Like, this is going to be hard getting out there to plant until June or July because everything's going to be so wet. And I thought about that, and that's what it was a few years ago here. It was so wet, I couldn't get out onto this until mid-June. It really struck home with me. And then 3 of the 5 years is going to be about just right. You're going to be just fine. So I thought about that, and I thought, you know what? I think that I'm just going to stand pat and let Mother Nature do what she wants to do. I think that was indigo bunting that just flew across there. Anyways, if you remember a couple videos ago, about 6 weeks ago, this was hit by a drought. And that's what made me think about the sprinklers. It was so low. I bet this stuff was only 6 or 8 inches tall. And since that time, the drought ended. We got about 3 inches of rain a few weeks ago. Last week, I think we got about 1.5 inches. This week, a couple days ago, we got 1/2 inch of rain. So although we had that huge stretch, 6 weeks with no rain, and I thought everything's going to fail, we did get rain a few weeks ago, and now look how everything is exploding. It's probably hard to tell how tall this is, but I would say on average, everything is over 3 feet tall. You can see some taller ones that are out there here and there that are probably bumping on almost 5 feet tall. So I am getting the structure that I want out here now. So I do not intend on irrigating my food plots. But that's not to say that it's not a good solution for you. You know, everybody is different. Every property is different. Every amount of work and time people have is different. But as of right now, I think I've decided I'm going to skip the irrigation. But if you put irrigation in and it works for you, I'm happy for you, man, because then you always know you're always going to have water on your food plots, and that gives you a lot of power to really work your food plots well. So appreciate it. So the property playbook, it's kind of what lets me know what I need to be doing in August, because my playbook, and do you have a playbook for your property? Like, what do you do, when do you do it, why do you do it, what have you done before that doesn't work. You should make sure you document all that stuff, or at least have some kind of record of it so you don't make the same mistake again 10 years from now. But my property playbook says I have to be off the property Labor Day. Can't go out there and do anything after Labor Day, period. No questions, no exceptions. So I don't know what yours is, and you might not have such a hard and fast rule because you don't have as much pressure. We have a lot of hunting pressure around this 40 acres. I mean, there's guys all over on the property right around us too. So, so in order to get the deer here, we got to get our butts out of here so they get really comfortable being here. So what do you got to do in August? Well, you should probably have your game cameras out already. If you don't, you should get those out. The other thing is get all your shooting lanes trimmed up. Janice and I have been trimming these up for a couple of days now. A lot of work, but you know, you got to get it done. When you're sitting there hunting in November, it's such a great feeling to have these nice wide open quality shooting lanes. You got to get in your blinds and get them cleaned out, get the windows washed. What else you got to do? Oh, your licking branches. Get out and get your licking branches pulled down, or your new branches installed. You know, kill a little spot underneath them, or just rake it out a little bit to try to get them started. The bucks are starting to move onto the property. I have had the game cameras out for maybe a month now, and about a week ago, you know, we've been getting pictures of little bucks. They hang out here a lot, but about a week ago, finally started getting pictures of, I think, 2 or 3 bucks that are 3.5 years old or older. They're starting to come on the property. And so I'm even thinking, I wonder if I need to change my playbook to say mid-August I got to be out of here, because it's early August right now. And they're probably starting to scout a little bit where they want to start hanging out. Now, there's a lot of does on this property and a lot of fawns. We see them every day around the house all the time. So I wonder if those bucks are starting to, they're still kind of hanging out together, but you know, testosterone time is coming, and they're going to be shedding that velvet here in a couple of weeks. But I think they're just starting to branch out a little bit from their hardcore summer hangouts to start looking at maybe where are they going to hang out in the fall? Where's a safe place for them? Where are their does? Where are they going to have breeding opportunities? Where do they have space and food and water? And so I'm suggesting to you that that's what your property needs to have, because those bucks are going out right now and they're checking that out. So do you have everything that that buck wants on your property? So, but probably the most important thing that a mature buck wants is security. He wants to know that when he comes out in that area or that property, there's no smell of human, there's no sound of human, there's no scent of human, there's nothing that lets him think that, hey, a human is out here. He wants to feel comfortable. If he's not comfortable, he's gone. That's why you want to stay off of the property. So so that's kind of an update on what's going on here in August. We also moved a blind, like I said before in a video a couple months ago. I was going to move a blind back behind some trees I planted a few years ago, and we did that. So we've got a blind now over on our east line that's going to allow us to hunt when there's a pure west wind. We had a real struggle on a west wind, getting a good spot on the property to hunt. So now we have a blind on every side of the property, and no matter what the wind is, you can hunt. So I hope you have great access like that around your property too. If you don't, something to put on your playbook and start adding to your list of to-dos. So enough rambling on. If you got comments or questions, put them below. Thanks for watching.